Thank you all for coming. It is so exciting to be here, and I thought if Alan played any longer I was going to have to sing TNT, but he knew better than to let me sing along, and my wife has told me you can say anything you want, but don't sing in public. What's great about having Kelly introduce me is that I think it's going to be mostly good stuff she's going to say. The danger is she might make me cry if it gets so emotional, so I have to kind of check my emotions at the door. But it has been a whirlwind the last 4 years, just have been a crazy time, and sometimes people in Washington will ask me, well, your foreign policy isn't what it was 4 years ago, was it? And I was like, well, 4 years ago I was a surgeon in Bowling Green. I didn't have a foreign policy. So some of the things you do learn over time, and circumstances do change, and you try to figure things out as things go along. But certain principles I think you hold true, and these principles are important to our country and to our party. When we first moved to Bowling Green, it was about 20 years ago, we came full of hope. Full of hope for our family, for our kids, and for our country. I grew up in a small town in Texas. Kelly grew up over in Russellville, which was an even smaller town than I grew up in. But we both kind of wanted to, be around family, and her family still lives over in Russellville, and so we came back here. I wanted to be in a small town. I looked at Memphis and Chicago and bigger cities, but I wanted to be in a small town because I enjoyed growing up. My dad was a physician. I enjoyed growing up and going to church and seeing people at church whose babies he had delivered, or at the grocery store. And the sense of community, I think, is always greater, in a small community. One of the things that's probably been most memorable since I've been in office is not something we did in Washington, but actually something that Kelly helped with and several of you helped with as well. And this was to raise money for wounded soldiers to build a house. And we did this in our neighborhood, but it was a sense of community. And we helped with one in Lexington too. And the amazing thing about it to me was there is sort of a community of people, and that people do care about our soldiers. They do care about, trying to make things right, and understanding that we have an obligation to these kids, not just when they're overseas, but when they come home. But that sense of community and that spirit that you feel in a small town that you might kind of feel lost in a Houston or in Atlanta, is much different here for us. I tell people I'll answer any question, but the only question I will not answer is my win-loss record from Little League Baseball. And I coached against Brett Guthrie, and I don't know, his might have been better than mine. Maybe he admits his win-loss. But we had a friendly rivalry. Our kids played baseball together. But our life has been, for us, has revolved around Bowling Green. Kariakis Park, Purples, soccer, rec basketball, you name it. That's been our life. And we do appreciate your support. There are now times that I get to not just talk to the TV, or, my wife and I can complain. Now I get to complain on a bigger stage. And some of it's complaints, and some of the things that are great about our country. I think that many people, probably not many of us in this room, but people did vote for President Obama because they thought he was going to bring something different. You remember what he said? He was going to be for hope and change. He was going to be beyond race and beyond partisanship and beyond all of this. But it turns out he's sort of right in the middle of all this. And unfortunately, the things that he said he was going to rise above, he really didn't rise very far. In fact, I think he descended to a level that really is disappointing. There really isn't hope and change. I mean, what we've got is stuff that I'm really worried about. All of the debt of the first 43 presidents, he's now doubled that in his term. He's going to by the time he's finished. He says that he's concerned about poverty, but we now have 5.5 million new people in poverty since he's been president. I take him at his word that he cares. I think he cares about black unemployment, but black unemployment is still twice white unemployment. Why are these voters not coming to the Republican Party? The only reason is because we're not trying hard enough. So I've spent the last year traveling and crisscrossing the country and around Kentucky, West Louisville, you name it, trying to go places we haven't gone and saying we do care. We do care about you, and it's not a matter of who cares more. I admit the Democrats care too. They're just wrong on all of their policies. So one of the things that Senator McConnell and I have done together is a bill we call economic freedom zones. And in this, we go to areas of high poverty, West Louisville or Appalachia or Detroit for that matter. And we lower the taxes so dramatically that it leaves a significant amount of money there to stimulate the economy. I said when I went and was elected, I'm not bringing you money from Atlanta, but I'll let you keep more of your own money. And so the way we can do this, the way we can rejuvenate and show that we have compassion and care about people out of work, let's leave more money in those communities. Let's stimulate them with their own money. If we do this in Louisville, it's $650 million that would be left in West Louisville over 10 years. For Appalachia, it's over $1 billion. For Detroit, it's over $1 billion. This isn't your money. It isn't coming from Atlanta or Houston or Bowling Green. This is just letting them keep more of their own money. President, he tried his kind of stimulus. Remember, we had a government stimulus, $1 trillion. It didn't work. They added it up and divided, and it was $400,000 per job. Not a very efficient way, and I don't think anybody got actually a salary of $400,000. But $400,000 of your money per job he created. Why? Because government's abysmal at creating jobs. Government doesn't get the same signals. I tell people, it's not that government is inherently stupid, although it's a debatable point. Is they don't get the same signals. There's a lot of people in here who have small businesses and have employees. You get a signal every month. Did you make a profit? Can you meet your payroll? You won't do something wrong for very long. You might do it for a few months or even a year, but it catches up to you pretty quickly. Government can do something wrong for decades. They've been doing some things. We've tried to fix Appalachia for 50 years, and there's still a significant amount of poverty and problems there. Part of it's education. Part of it is that we've maybe said, oh, here, Mr. Smith, you take $100,000 and start a business. Problem is, Mr. Smith can't run a business, or Mrs. Smith. What you need to do is give the tax money back to the people who earned it, who are in productive businesses. Then we'll grow our economy again. As we go forward and we're trying to figure this out, we have to figure what we're going to do. Are we going to win in the election coming up? I've been all around the country crisscrossing, trying to help Senate candidates win. And you know what I feel? I sense that the wind is at our back. I sense that we're going to have a big victory. In fact, I can taste it, and I hope you'll be part of it. Now, it's not over in Kentucky. Mrs. Grimes may not remember who she voted for president, but she knows darn well who she's going to vote for majority leader in the Senate, and it's not Mitch McConnell. If she's elected, without question, in fact, I want somebody to ask her this question, because maybe she doesn't have an answer to this one either. But if she's elected, she'll vote for Harry Reid, and if she says otherwise, she's just dissembling. Fancy word for not telling the truth. But the thing is that she will be a vote for Harry Reid. The moment she makes that vote for Harry Reid, we are done. Because the thing is if you have 49 Republicans in the Senate and 51 Democrats, we don't get 49% of the agenda, we get 0% of the agenda. So it makes a big deal, it is a very big deal who runs the Senate. And as this goes forward, what we need to do is take our crowd here. We need to make sure we win. We need to win Mitch McConnell. We need to send him back to the Senate. Jim DeCesare, the State House, Michael Meredith. We need to take over the State House for the first time in over 100 years, and I hope you will all be part of that. One of the things I've talked a lot about in the last year or so has been criminal justice reform. And you may say, oh, that's not me, that I've never broken the law, my kids have never broken the law, my kids are all perfect. However, not everybody is perfect. Many of us are Christians in this room and we believe in redemption. I think the law should give people a second chance. A lot of the people who commit these problems or do things with drugs or make mistakes are young, but they're also poor and disproportionately black and brown. And it's the right thing to do. It's also the political thing to do. People say, oh, you're just trying to get their votes. Well, yes, I'm a politician. But it's also the right thing to do. Rolling Stone has an interview right now. It's like 30 pages, and it goes through 10 different individuals who've been in jail, some of them for 20 and 30 years. Some of them went to jail for selling $300 worth of marijuana when they were 22 years old. They're in jail for 55 years. Why don't we be the party that is all the things we are? Why don't we be boldly, even more boldly for the stuff we're for? Low taxes, less regulations, balanced budget. Let's not dilute an iota of it. But why don't we then be the party that says, you know what? We understand some of these criminal justice issues and we're willing to change this. We're still going to punish people who commit crimes. In fact, we'll have more room for those who commit violent crimes if we're getting rid of the people or sending them back out who commit nonviolent crimes. Frankly, while I'm not big on government jobs and government training, if we've got somebody in jail, instead of putting them in jail for 10 years for marijuana, if you still want them in jail, put them in for a year and let's give them a job training program in jail and have them start getting their first job while leaving on a work release. Nonviolent people. We could be the party that would be for some of these things. All of a sudden people are going to say, well, Democrats haven't done anything for me on this. Democrats haven't done anything about poverty. Democrats have thrown more money to Appalachia, thrown more money to West Louisville, and it's still bad. There's still this great deal of poverty. I came from Ferguson yesterday, and there's this sort of, I think, seething undercurrent of unease in our country. And people thought President Obama, he was going to change. He was going to make this better. But he's really played on our fears. He has accentuated and played on our fears, and he's pitted working class against the business class. He's pitted poor against the rich. But you know what? The poor have gotten poorer under his watch. The rich have gotten richer. Income inequality, this great Democrat thing, they want to say it's all Republicans. It's worse under his administration than it was under Republicans. It's worse in Democrat-run states than Republican states. It's worse in cities run by Democrat mayors. Yeah, income inequality, if it's a problem, it's a Democrat problem. We need to get rid of the Democrats. As we go forward, when we think about this, when we think, what are we going to do? The beginning is in 3 weeks. Now in 2016, we're going to get a chance. And I think it's about time we start thinking about getting a new president. In order to win, though, we have to realize that the Republican Party has 18 states we haven't won in 30 years. That's a big deal. It's 242 electoral votes. That's why you always say, well, you've got to win Ohio. Well, the reason we always have to win every state that's left is because we're giving up on 30 states. We can reach out and get new people in these states. We can reach out to new audiences and we can win again. But we need to be the party that passionately is for the Bill of Rights. You know, we're the party of the Second Amendment. Let's be the party of the Fourth Amendment, the First Amendment, the Fifth, the Sixth, the Tenth, the Ninth, the Tenth. We will passionately stand up for your right to bear arms. Almost every Republican will. But what you need is a Republican who also stands up for the poor person who's had his money taken away from him and they're saying, guilty until proven innocent. We need to stand up for that poor person as well. We also need to be the party that says, before we cut 1 penny from the safety net, we need to cut every penny from corporate welfare. And you say, oh, well, certainly government's not giving money to big business. Just look at the budget. $20 billion goes directly to big business. Another $20 billion goes in loans. And when you say, well, certainly President Obama's for the middle class, right? He wouldn't be giving it to his rich buddies, would he? Anybody remember Solyndra? Yeah. $500 million given in a loan to one of the richest men in our country to build solar panels. I'm not against solar panels, but if you're the 20th richest man in the country, you build them. Don't ask the taxpayer to build them. If we want to win again, not only do we need to reach out to new constituencies, we need to capture something we haven't captured in decades. When Ronald Reagan ran, it was a sense of optimism, but he also was for something. People forget that he was for something. He was for cutting taxes for everyone, and when he did, we had 7% growth in 1 year, 20 million jobs created. But we've gone away from that. We've run people who says, I'm for revenue neutral tax reform. And I say, if that's what we're for, if that's what the Republican Party's for, I'll go home. I can yell at my TV and get along just fine, but I'm not for revenue neutral tax reform. That's just shifting the burden and doesn't do anything for anybody. So Reagan was boldly for what he was for. Let's do it again. Let's reach out. But Reagan did have a sense about him that he cared about everybody. Working class Democrats came to our party. There might be some in this room who were Democrats before Ronald Reagan. People came to the party because of that ability to exude optimism. And when I think about it, when I think about how we're going to win again, it's as much about our attitude and the way we present our ideas as it is the policy. When I think about how we're going to win again, I think about Robert Henry, who was a painter, and he said when he was exhorting young painters, he said, paint like a man coming over the hill singing. And I love the image of that. Paint like a man coming over the hill singing. When I think how we're going to win again, I think we've got to be like Patrick Henry. We've got to proclaim our message. Give me liberty or give me death. We've got to be for what we're for and more boldly for what we're for. But we need to do it and present a message that appeals to everyone. A message that appeals to whether you're rich or poor, white or black, whether you've got a tattoo or you don't have a tattoo, whether you got an earring or no earring or a ponytail. We've got to present a message that resonates beyond the business class, beyond the Chamber of Commerce, to a bigger crowd. I think when we proclaim our message like a man coming over the hill singing, then I think we'll win again. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.